Good evening.
Evening.
Today I'm going to be talking about complaining. The definition of complain is to express dissatisfaction, pain, uneasiness, or grief. Complaining is like bad breath. You notice it when it comes out of other people's mouth, but not your own. I have a short story here I'm going to read, and it's called Stop Thinking and Start Complaining. There was a man on the coast of Florida a few miles from Kennedy Space Center. His friend told him it must be fun watching the space shuttle launches and going to the beach all the time. I never go to the beach, he replied. I don't even go outside my house to watch the space shuttle launch. You're kidding me. Why? His friend asked. I've seen them so many times, it's no big deal. When we see the same blessings every day, we eventually stop noticing them. When we stop noticing, we stop appreciating. When we stop appreciating, we stop thanking. When we stop thanking, we start complaining. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 14, it says, do all things without grumbling or questioning. Now turn with me to Numbers chapter 11, and I'm going to be reading verses 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the outermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And a mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again, and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers, and the melons, and the leeks, and the onions, and the garlic. But now our soul is dread away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. What I think is funny is this lesson is about complaining, and the Israelites are complaining. But when we skip to verses 11 through 15, Moses complains to Jesus about the Israelites complaining. So let's read that. And Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, carry them in the bosom, as a nursing father beareth the sucking child, unto the land which thou swearest unto thy fathers? When shall I have flesh to give unto all these people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. I am not able to bear all these people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand, if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. Now I'm going to go back to verse 6, and it says, but now our soul is dread away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. When I saw that verse, it reminded me of everyday thinking today. We think we don't have anything to eat when we go to our pantries when it's full of food. Or when we go to our closet, we think we don't have any clothes to wear when it's full of clothes. And what we do, we go to the store and we get even more stuff, even though we don't need it. About 6 years ago, after church or whenever, I always go to my grandma's house, and we would spend time with each other. And I would usually occupy myself playing in the creek. Well, if I didn't do that, I would be absolutely bored. And when I told her I was bored, she would point her finger at me and told me she was going to put a knot on my noggin because I shouldn't be bored. And she was absolutely right. I needed to know my blessings, because kids out there my age couldn't run around and play like I could because of disabilities, or they couldn't see the things I could or hear the things I could. Now I got one more little story I'm going to read. It's called Getting Used to Blessings. Carol decided she wanted to do something nice for her neighbor, Miss Smith, so she baked a pie and carried it next door. When Miss Smith opened up her door, she was surprised to see her holding a pie. She replied, for me? Oh, thank you so much. You just don't know how much I appreciate it. You are so thoughtful for doing this. Thank you. Because Miss Smith liked this pie so much, Carol decided that next week to bake her another one. When she took it over, Miss Smith opened the door and said, "Thank you so much, you are so kind." Carol took another pie over the following week. Miss Smith replied, "Thanks." Carol took another pie over the next week, and Miss Smith responded, "You are a day late with that pie." The following week, Carol baked another pie. This time her neighbor said, "Try using a little more sugar and don't bake it quite as long. The crust has been a little bit hard lately, and I like cherry instead of apple filling next time." Next week, Carol was so busy she was unable to cook for her neighbor. When Carol passed by her house or the way to the store, Miss Smith looked through the window and noticed she wasn't carrying a pie. She stuck her head out the window and yelled, "Where's my pie?" It's so easy to get used to our blessings after enjoying them for a while. We begin to think we deserve them. Then instead of being thankful, we complain. It's a process that occurs so slowly we don't even realize it's happening. The question is, how do we stop from complaining? Well, before you go to bed, you can count your blessings of the day you had, or never mind. Anyways, the next day you do the same thing, and the next day you do the same thing. Some days you may think you don't even have blessings, but when you get home from work or school, you're in a shelter, there'll be food on the table, you have electricity, and you will be in a bed to sleep in that night. Are you thankful or are you a complainer?